All right. The Great Bambi 42. We're here. We're at the Mode campus, Liberty Lake, Washington. I'm with the man, Ed Short Fuse Herman, UFC legend, Brandon Cromartie.
Yo,
Just fought last night at King of the Cage.
Yes,
How you guys
sir.
doing?
We're doing great, man. Brandon got the W last night. That's what we came out here for. We're in this beautiful facility having a good time. So,
Oh yeah,
you know,
enjoying life.
Absolutely, and thank you guys again for doing this. It's amazing. We get so many amazing people coming through the Mode campus, and UFC legend. Got to get them in here. Got to get some content. Because I've been in the MMA space for a little while now, doing interviews and trying to help these young and up and coming fighters get content and yeah, that's their resume. These highlight reel videos. That's what's going to get them to the next promotion.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I want to kind of just take it back, with you, with your story. You've been in the game for so long. I guess how did you start into MMA, and like what's the earliest memories that you have of MMA?
Fighting in the schoolyard in the sand pit, the Sandagon back in the grade school. But I started wrestling early. My dad wrestled for University of Iowa with Dan Gable. So it was kind of in me early, just, combat sports in general. We started watching the UFC when it first came out. I think I was 15 or 16. And then, shortly after that, Randy Couture and Matt Lindland started fighting out of Gresham, Oregon, which was like right down the road in my backyard. And eventually I wandered in there and, started training just for fun at first, just kind of keep me out of trouble. And it just kind of took my life over, pretty quickly, actually. I just started getting good really fast, and doors just started opening.
Yeah, I mean, the sport was so much different. I feel like way back in the day. Do you remember your first fight?
I do, absolutely. Yeah, I remember being in the tunnel, staring down the hallway at the cage, being super nervous. There's like Gwen Stefani jamming in the background. I still remember that song, and it's, it was crazy. I was in Medford, Oregon, in this little armory, back in 2001.
Damn, way back.
Damn.
I know you were part of the Ultimate Fighter. Is that how you were introduced? Like, is that how you got your UFC contract? Is by being?
Yeah, so I had already fought in, all over the world. I had fought in Japan. I was 13-2. The UFC was looking at signing me already. And I had applied for season 1, and my good friend and training partners, Chris Lieben and Nate Corey, they got on. They didn't choose me, but I got flown out to Vegas, went through the whole interview process. And then the next season 2, they had heavyweights and I think 155ers. So I applied as a heavyweight. I flew out there. They flew me out there. I was doing the interviews, and they were like, "You're not very big," and I was like 190 pounds. I was like, "That's fine. I'll whoop all these heavyweights' asses. I don't give a fuck." And Dana White came busting in the room. Was like, "I love your attitude. You're so funny, man. We want you on the show next season. We're bringing back middleweights, so let's get you back for season 3." And I was like, I'll whoop all these heavyweights' asses, man. He was like, he loved it. So they brought me back for the season 3 tryouts, and I made it through the process. And yeah, season 3 of the Ultimate Fighter, 2000, I think the end of 2005, we started filming.
That's wild. I know it used to be on Spike TV. It was more like reality show.
It was
like big fights and stuff in the house. Yeah, what do you remember from that season?
It's crazy because you're locked in a house for 6 weeks with 16 guys, a bunch of booze, a lot of testosterone. All we did was like train and, drink and eat. It was crazy, They would get us whatever food we wanted whenever we wanted it. They would stock it with fresh booze every day. I was a young, wild man, so it was a good time.
And how many fights did you have while you were in the house?
I only fought twice. You fight, it's basically like an 8-man tournament. So, you win 2 and you're in the finals. So, I didn't fight till the last 2 weeks. So I was sitting there going stir crazy, trying to, Tito kept messing with me and picking other guys to fight because he knew that I wanted to fight really bad. And I had a big chip on my shoulder and a lot to prove. And so, yeah, I fought twice, and then I made it to the finals. And then you go home, for while the season airs, basically, and then they have the finale live in Vegas. So then that was the third fight. I made it to the finals. I lost a controversial split decision to Kendall Grove, but the fight was good enough that Dana came in and awarded me the winner's contract as well. So that's kind of what started, my UFC career in a sense.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I know you were in the UFC for so long. So many fights. Like what did your contract look like? When you first started versus over the couple decades that you were there.
Well, it's funny because like I said, they were looking at signing me anyway, and they basically gave me. They were like, we could sign you now, and you can fight in a couple weeks, and we'll pay you 3 and 3, 3,000 to show, 3,000 to win, or you can do the show. And I was like, well, how much do I get if I win the show? And they're like, well, your contract will start at 12 and 12. So I was like, I'm gonna win the fucking show. Let's go. Let's do the show. And I knew you would get a lot of publicity, a lot of hype doing the show because a couple of my teammates had already done the first couple of seasons. So I was going in there to win the show and make that big 12 and 12 money.
Damn.
Which isn't shit, but at the time it was a lot of money for a young man coming out of the hood.
For sure. I guess it's a question I like to ask fighters. Do you enjoy the process of fighting? Like, is it something that I know some people? George St. Pierre comes to mind when he's saying he's throwing up before fights and stuff like that. Do you enjoy the whole process of fighting?
Yes and no. There's a lot of things to enjoy about it. The training is tough. Being there with your brothers though, and I couldn't imagine a better job. To do. And then, the process of showing up for fight week, you show up 5 or 6 days early, the nerves are kicking in, you see your opponent in the hallway or whatever, doing interviews. So I tried to find a way to enjoy it. There was a lot of times that I was nervous. And towards the end of my career, I was able to kind of look back and say, man, I want to look back and say I enjoyed these moments. I wasn't miserably sick, because there was times where I was. So at the end of my career, I think I was able to manifest, the cool parts of it, and just be like, man, I got to look back on this and say I enjoyed it. Enjoy these moments. People wish they could do this. It's something special to be able to fight in the UFC and do that for a living. So, yeah, definitely a lot of nerves, especially when I was younger, man.
Do you have any big regrets and think maybe something you wish you would have done differently over the course of your career?
Yeah, always. I wish I would have. I feel like I took things for granted a little bit. Thought I'd be doing it forever. I never really looked at the end. I wish I, would have maybe took a little more serious, not partied as much. I trained hard though. We would train hard and we would party hard and we would do it again the next day. So, I don't have regrets as far as I had so much fun and did so many things. I wish I just maybe would have took things a little more serious as far as, just not partying so much, I guess.
Do you have a defining moment in your career that was damn, that's the one moment that kind of stands out above the rest?
The Ultimate Fighter, really getting on the Ultimate Fighter was the huge defining part, getting me in the UFC, getting my name out there. When you're on those reality shows, people get a chance to see a little bit of into your life and who you are. They almost feel like they know you. I remember running into people and they would feel like they knew me from watching the show, because they get to see they get to see the hard times, they get to see the good times, and they get to see the emotions. They get to see your backstory. So I would say definitely being on the Ultimate Fighter, right? But I had a lot of crazy ups and downs, injuries where I thought my career was over, and I made a comeback. I was off for 2 years with double ACL surgery, thought my career was over, moved to Colorado, opened a gym, and I was able to come back, and I went on a 3-fight winning streak and rejuvenated my career, and I'm fighting, another 12 or 15 times, and ended up fighting until I was 42 years old in the UFC.
Yeah, I went back. I watched the retirement speech when you Daniel Cormier in the octagon. I guess go take me back to that moment of hanging it up. The decision that went into that. You had such a long career. Just talk about that night and the emotions.
Yeah, that was a hard one. Getting older is hard, and I think for any athlete, when you're playing a sport or doing what you love to do, when you start getting older and you can see the end a little bit, I knew it was coming, and I was like, man, if I don't win this fight, I think I'm gonna just hang him up. If I would have won, and looked good, then I think I would have got a new contract, and I maybe would have kept fighting a little bit longer. But the last 5 years before I retired, I was contemplating retirement because it's a tough job, man. It's the ups and downs when you lose, the heartache and the heartbreak, and even financially, it's tough. Like living like that, you have a year where you're injured or you don't win a couple of fights. Like financially, it's a lot tougher. So just that lifestyle is stressful.
Do you? I know you're getting into promoting now. Do you still enjoy the process of the fight game, like in this new role? I know you're over at American Top Team with Brandon over here. Training some really good up and coming guys. Do you still enjoy the process of MMA?
Absolutely, man. I love it, and I'm blessed to be able to stay in the game and stay in this trade. I've gotten the opportunity to work with a lot of up and coming young athletes, getting to train these guys, be in their corner. So it's like I retired from fighting, but I'm still in the game. I still get to feel that adrenaline rush. Like Brandon gets the big W, man. That's like me getting a big W. Like the same kind of emotions and adrenaline goes into that. Get in the cage, all the hard work, paid off, right? It's crazy. You train for months for 15 minutes
yeah.
in the cage, and to get to like share those moments with my brothers in the cage is like, it's really special, man. There's nothing like it, and I'm just excited to still be a part of that and be there for these young guys and try to help lead them, the best that I can.
Hell yeah. And yeah, I mean, Brandon, you just a big win. Talk about last night. Talk about the preparation going into that fight, and just your overall thoughts on the fight.
Man, we knew that guy was going to be tough, man. We had a couple teammates that had already fought him, and they were all like, man, don't try to go out there and look for the finish. That guy is he's unstoppable, man. That guy I hit him with everything, and he still didn't go down, but we got the job done, and preparation is always hard, man. That's the hardest part of the sport, is just preparation. The fight is pretty easy once you get through all the sparring sessions and the wrestling classes and the jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it's always, I'm having fun. I'm having fun with it.
I guess same kind of question. What do you have, like a moment in your career that kind of stands out? But have you been with American Top Team your entire career?
No. I started out at Henzo Gracie, and I came over here. I moved from New Jersey over to the West Coast and joined the ATT and met up with this crazy fucker, and got a good team behind me, and we've been rolling ever since. So, but I started out in Jersey. Had my amateur career out there. I turned pro pretty late in my 20s, 26 was when I turned pro. So, I think I got a lot of body left in the sport.
Who do you guys have right now coming up out of ATT that you think is like, that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, obviously, Ricky Simone, he's in the UFC, just had a really big win in Seattle, got a big knockout. So he's like, our one of our main guys. Brent Primus is fighting in the PFL tournament. This Friday he's fighting, so he's an old dog like me, though. He's getting towards the end of his career, but he's been fighting the biggest shows. He was a Bellator world champion. And we have a lot of young guys. Jamal Mavlodov is this young Turkish-Russian kid. He's 20 years old and just a monster, man. People are afraid of him, and he's got that thing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we got a couple young guys who are, it's cool to see the talent come in the room, and you can, see some of these young guys who just got that thing about them, you know what I mean? There's a lot of guys who want to do this, and it ain't easy.
No, I know you're getting into promoting now too. Like, being in the UFC for so long, I feel like you got to see it kind of progress and evolve over the years. What's something that you feel like you can kind of take, like, from the UFC blueprint that you kind of want to implement into your own, promotion?
Well, there's a lot of promotions and promoters that we co-promote and do shows with, and I'm so used to the big lights fighting in the UFC. So when I do shows, I'm always trying to bring that to our fans, the entertainment side of, like, it's a show. We want people to be smiling and have a good time. Our VIP guests show up, their wives are dressed up and You know, there's some good music in the background. People just smiling and having a good time, man. It's like at one of my last shows, I had this lady come up to me who was, you know, maybe in her late 50s, and she's like, I didn't want to go. My friends made me come to this. I've never been to fights before. I'm not a big fan of violence, but she's like, I had so much fun. It was so awesome. It was so much different than I thought. Because you can see people's families there, their moms, their kids, their wives. You see the emotion and everything that's put into this. We're not just a bunch of barroom brawlers, you know, like this is a lifestyle for us. And, you know, there's so much more that goes into it than people realize.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I was telling you yesterday. I grew up watching pro wrestling. You know, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock hitting each other over the head with steel chairs. When Brock Lesnar made his transition from pro wrestling into MMA, that's kind of when I was like, oh, I got to follow his career, see what he does in the UFC. But yeah, when it comes to like promoting and being able to promote yourself, and like, you know, I interview some of these kids, and they're starting to get the ball rolling when it comes to like talking to the camera and like really trying to sell themselves and sell these fights and get people excited, because that's really, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Like, you know, why do you want to watch a fight? You know, like
right. I mean, it's entertainment, right? We're in the entertainment business, so you got to have that. You got to have that part. You got to have those intangibles. Like, you can't just be a good fighter. You got to be able to sell yourself. You got to be marketable. You know, you got to have some charisma and swagger out there. You know, look at like Conor McGregor, how much he did for the sport. Just, you know, whether you hate him or you love him, you know, you still want to watch him.
Yeah, and there's like that fine line too, you know, that you gotta tread it. You have that like Chael Sonnen over the top, you know, pro wrestling promo type of person. And you have your Conor McGregor who made it seem so real. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, what do you also like? How are you doing with like promoting yourself? And
I'm out there, man. I'm out there. I'm on all the socials and stuff like that. I'm doing my best with it. I'm learning as I go. You know, I know it's an aspect that always needs work. You know, everybody needs to work on that. Everybody could use more of it. So yeah, we're running. We're running with it.
And it's like, and MMA is such like a respect type of sport too. So it's like you don't want to go in and talk a bunch of shit about, you know, the guy you're fighting.
Yeah.
You know. So during your career, did you have any like big animosity in any of your fights, or was, for the most part, was it like a respectful?
Not really. You know, coming off The Ultimate Fighter, I was kind of the heel on the show, like talking smack, because had a big chip on my shoulder, and I kind of wish I would have ran with that kind of bad boy image a little bit more, because, like I said, whether people hate you or like you, they want to watch you, right? And so I had a lot of hype behind me, you know, but then I got a lot of hate too. Like, people get on social media and talk shit, and you're an asshole, you're a piece of shit, and that kind of got to me a little bit. So then I kind of took a step back and tried to be more respectful, and like take like a page out of Randy Couture's book and be like, you know. But then I got way less popular when I did that, so I should have just kept talking shit and kind of, you know, letting it out a little bit more instead of caring what people thought as much. So, you know, if I look back, I think I would have made a lot more money and been more popular if I'd have just kept playing that heel role a little bit. Not that I had to play it, you know, but it's hard to kind of do that if you don't want it to seem unauthentic either. You know, some guys like Kobe Covington, it just doesn't seem that real. He's like trying too hard to be that heel, and you like got Chael or Conor McGregor, and it just comes so easy. You know what I mean? So it's not for everybody. You got to kind of find who you are in a way, you know, because not, you know, you got like St. Pierre, who's like the good guy, you know what I mean? Everybody loves him, but it worked for him. So obviously you got to win too.
Yeah.
Very important.
That highlight reel, I mean, if you're knocking people out unconscious, you know, that's going to take you further than anything you can say on a microphone. Man, I was going through your Tapology too. I mean, like, you fought some big names, you know, Jacare Souza in like 2005. What do you remember from that fight? Or not Jacare Souza, Chuck Liddell's guy, Glover Teixeira.
Yeah. I fought Glover Teixeira before I got in the UFC.
Yeah.
And I was one of his only losses before he got in the UFC. I beat him for the sport fight light heavyweight title. At the time, you know, he wasn't a real big name yet, but he was a big, scary Brazilian. I remember going in there and thinking, all right, I'm going to work on my hands this fight. He hit me so hard, he spun me in a circle. I was like, oh, double leg. I'll work on my hands the next fight. So I just, you know, took him down and beat him up on the ground, and it was a big win for me at the time. That was my first fight at 205. I was a middleweight most of my career. I think I weighed 200 in that fight. I didn't cut any weight, and so it was a tough fight. And it was cool, to look back like when he won the UFC title, to be like, damn, I got a W over him.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I know he want the rematch Texiera. Let's go give me that Rocky shot,
I know you. Are you 100% retired, or is there a promotion out there that could say, hey, Masters League?
It's tough. There's always that thought that goes through my head, like, oh, I could still do this. Watching guys fight, I'm like, man, I could whoop that guy's ass. Maybe I should give it one more run. And the money's getting better too, so it's hard to walk away from the money. But like the BFL, the bare knuckle show, they offered me a pretty good contract. But I've been doing this so long, so a lot of people close to me were not big fans of me coming back and fighting. Just the damage that you take physically and mentally, it adds up. It's rough, and I'm lucky to still be with it like I am. So it could be that one last punch that changes things. And brain damage, all kinds of stuff, CTE. We don't know long term all this stuff that could still come out. So I'm pretty happy with being retired. Again, I get to live through these guys fighting a little bit and be in their corner, still training with them on the mats a little bit, and just that helps a lot. I think if I retired and got like a real job, it would be a lot harder, but continuing to be able to stay in the sport, help promote fights. I do some color commentating, I'm doing a lot of different things involved in the sport. So it's nice to be on the other side too.
Yeah, one punch can change everything. I mean, you look at like Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje. It's like I feel like after that fight, it was just everything after that downhill. For your career, how are you doing health-wise? Do you feel like you got out quick enough, or, just how do you feel health-wise?
I feel pretty good. Like mentally, I feel good. I feel sharp mentally. I feel like, about to turn 45. I'm about to hit my prime, So, but physically, the mornings are rough sometimes. The body hurts, my neck's pretty jacked up, my shoulders. There's a lot of wear and tear that I'm going to be paying for over the next, half of my life that I got left. So definitely rough on the body, man. But my head feels good though. I feel like I'm, able to still, function and hopefully play with my grandkids someday and all that kind of stuff and remember their names. And
I know. I feel like we saw boxing, but we really haven't seen MMA. We haven't seen a lot of these guys, get older, and so it's like Chuck Liddell and people like that, and it's just I'm a little nervous, obviously, just
There's some guys out there, that I think it gets kind of swept under the rug. There's a guy named Spencer Fisher who fought in the UFC for a long time. I heard he's got some really bad, problems going on. And there's other fighters too who struggle, some people get concussions easier than other people too. So, you don't really know. Like I was like, I could take a punch, I could take a beating. Somehow my brain was able to, I don't know if I got the caveman head or what, but again, long term, we don't know for sure. But like, as of now, I'm doing all right. Like, I don't feel like I have too many long-term effects where there's other fighters who you can see it in them, you can hear it in their voice. My voice is a little more raspy for sure, but the stutter, maybe a little bit of stutter, but not too bad. There's some guys way worse off. So
I know I watch podcasts and stuff, and I see guys like Kamaru Usman, like when he got knocked out, he's like, man, I don't remember anything, and then and then I'm just in the ambulance, and it's like, oh, yeah, the fight's over. And I have no recollection of anything that happened in the entire fight.
It happens fast, man. It happens real quick.
Do either of you guys have any, like, moments like that where maybe you took a bad concussion and yeah, what's the moments after something like that happens?
I got one of those. I haven't really had any bad concussions and knockout stories like that. Thank God, But the fight before this one, I got choked out, so it's pretty much almost the same thing. Man, I just woke up and it was like, you're kind of like, what's happening, what's going on, until your brain finally clicks and it's like, oh yeah, I got choked out, you know. But I think it's a little bit different with the punch, but with the choke, it's like because you kind of wake up a little bit different. But with the punch, you got a little bit more pain coming through afterwards and stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty rough thing to go through. It's kind of traumatizing a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't really experience that till towards the end of my career. Like I was never knocked out or anything until right towards the end. Like, and then it's like it's a common thing. Like you ask your coach like 20 times, "What happened again?
Yeah.
Hey, what happened?" Or you hear guys like, "Hey, when's my fight?" You know, or like, "When am I up?" I'm like, "Dude, you got knocked the fuck out, bro. Like, it's over." You're like, "What happened?" You're like, "Dude, I told you 5 times what happened, man. Like, it's annoying me. Shut up."
Yeah, I had to ask my teammate what happened. I was like, "Man, what happened?" He's like, "Yeah, you got choked out." I was like, "For real?"
Getting choked out's different though. You
Yeah,
getting knocked out, like there's definitely like a
more
memory
damage.
Yeah, there's definitely like some short-term memory loss.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Getting choked out is definitely better for you
Yeah.
because you wake up and you're good. Like I remember in Japan, I was fighting this guy Kazumi Misaki, and I was winning the fight, and then he ended up catching me in an arm triangle, and I woke up. I remember all of a sudden I'm like playing video games, and in my head I'm going, "What the hell am I doing playing video games? I thought I was fighting." You know, I'm like playing video games, and all of a sudden I wake up, and you're looking up at the lights, and all these. I was in Japan, right? So all these guys are speaking Japanese right in my face, trying to take my mouthpiece out and stuff. I'm like, what in the hell is going on?
Like a nightmare.
It was like, yeah, it was like a bad dream, you know. And then I was like, oh, what? I got caught in that arm triangle. I know I was doing the right defense. I grabbed my leg and I was twisting this way. I watched the video and I like reached up and like touched my leg, and even in my head, I was like, "Oh, I was on the defense. How did that choke me out?" And I looked back, and I was like, "No, I wasn't on the defense at all. Like I was out."
Talk about the experience fighting overseas. I know like the culture is just so much different when it comes to the fight scene and the fight community. Like I feel like they respect fighters so much over there. Yeah, how was it fighting overseas for you?
You know, that was cool. I was 23 or 24, and I got to go fly to Japan and fight. You know, I had barely been anywhere at that point, so it was a like very amazing experience to be a young man like that and go see the world. But yeah, Japan, the whole crowd is quiet. Nobody's saying nothing. You hear like ooh, ah, or like in America, you know, they're like twist his dick or headbutt him, ah, you know, like they're so respectful in Japan, and it's a trip, man. It's like everybody's quiet and. It's nothing like it, you know what I mean? So I wish, I hope that more guys get to experience that. Some of my young guys in the gym, because it's a different dynamic, and just being able to travel and fight changes. You know, you fight at home. You start out fighting locally in your hometown, and then you travel regionally, like maybe come to Idaho or up here where we are, and then you get to start fighting, all over the world. And that's the coolest part for me. One of the coolest things was just being able to travel the world, experience different cultures, eat the different food. I feel like I wasn't, formally educated going to college, but I learned so much from just traveling the world. I feel like that's where a lot of my education came from in life, is just that travel, meeting different people, and just, man, so amazing. That's like the coolest thing ever for me.
Yeah. Have you had the opportunity to travel and with fighting?
Not around the world, but all across the United States, man. That's one of the big things that I wanted to implant in myself when I started out, was that I was going to use that, use fighting as a launch board to see the United States, to see the world. Hopefully one day I get to do what this guy did and go travel over to Japan and all these other countries to fight. But right now just nationally now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I guess a couple more for me. You've been in the game for so long. You have relationships. I'm sure with big name guys, Forrest Griffin. What's your relationship like with Joe Rogan and yeah?
Yeah, Joe's cool, man. Like I remember early in my career, I took a loss. I was fighting in Florida in Hollywood, Florida. I go to the after party and I'm like kind of sitting at the bar, and Joe Rogan's like, "Ed, come over here and sit in our VIP area." Like he was like, Mr. Big Time, but like so cool and real, and like we hung out and had a good time. And ever since then, me and Joe have always like had good things to say about each other. Every time he's called one of my fights, he's always says good things about me. He's like always had my back. I fought in Nebraska one time, and we went and partied with him afterwards. I had my aunt and uncle and like my cousins from Iowa are like super square, and like they're hanging out with Joe Rogan. It was like they couldn't even believe it. So not only for me, but like for my friends and family to experience some of that kind of stuff is pretty cool. You know what I mean? And to have a guy like Joe who's like so real, man, and like is so like down to earth and isn't, like judgmental or like I'm too good for you type of attitude. And I think the fight game's like that. A lot of fighters are like the realest dudes you ever meet. Like people always comment, man, the fighters, they're so cool. You can just roll up and talk to them. They'll take a picture with you. Where unlike some other sports, like NBA guys and in other sports where guys are kind of, stuck up and full of themselves a little bit more.
Yeah.
A lot of fighters came from nothing, you know what I mean? And kind of earned their way there, where some of these other athletes, they were superstars in high school and, treated a certain way, different than other people their entire lives because they were athletes, where that wasn't the case for me. So
What about Dana White? Was he ever like part of negotiations, or what was your relationship like with Dana?
yeah, Dana's real, man. Like people say he's an asshole or this or that, but he's always been real, like straight up, like which you can appreciate if your boss is straight up with you, right? Like if you're fucking up, he's going to tell you. If you're doing good, he's going to tell you. He's not going to sugarcoat nothing. He's not going to bullshit you. He's always been super real with me. Like I went to UFC Seattle. I've been retired for a couple years almost, and they gave me like front row seats. Dana came up, made the time 2 different times to come up and chat with me and see how I'm doing. We kind of talked about getting together and grabbing lunch, and he was honestly like, like asking me how I'm doing, not just like, hey, how's it going, kind of thing. He was like really like, what's up, man? How you been? Like, how's life? What are you up to? So that was cool, He does give a shit more than people think, you know what I mean? And, that's nice to have that too, right? To feel like, man, once you retire, you feel like nobody gives a fuck anymore. Like, yeah, it's over. What have you done for me lately kind of sport. That's how it is, So, but to feel like I still had some appreciation was cool, man. It made me feel good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, anything like I know. Do you have anything you want to promote or anything like that? Any shout outs? Anybody? Anything? What's going on with you right now?
Yeah, so I'm helping co-promote some different shows. Obviously, I'm coaching over at American Top Team Portland. We're coming up, and we're the most dominant team around the Northwest, and we're going to continue to grow. I opened my own academy in my hometown of Vancouver, Washington. It's called Fuse Martial Arts. And we train kids and just people who want to learn jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai like regular folks. So yeah, I'm really working hard to grow that gym, and it's in the same neighborhood that I grew up in as like a troubled youth and the kind of hood apartments around the corner. So it's cool to give back to the community a little bit, get kids in there to give them an opportunity to. Not everybody's gonna become a world champion, but just martial arts in general can help people. You see the confidence build in some of the young kids and even adults coming in and losing weight and just seeing their confidence. They're holding their chin a little bit higher. That's going to help them lead a healthier life, whether it's at work, with their wife, all that stuff, man. It just goes so far. There's just so much to it. It's just so amazing, man, to see that. We have a local bar called Playmakers that we do fight nights at, and we raise money to sponsor kids for the gym, which is awesome, So it's a community, effort from all of us, and it's cool to just be a community leader coming from being like a punk kid who had nothing going for him to have those opportunities now is pretty amazing.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you for everything that you guys do. Like I have so much respect for people that step into the cage and. I mean, you guys are literally putting your lives on the line, taking years off your life to entertain people like me. And like I said, I want to help people capture those moments too. I love being able to deliver a clean video of a highlight of a knockout for a fighter, and just to see them like, oh man, that's awesome.
That's dope.
So that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been working on. I've been working with a bunch of promoters. Rick Little got the show out in Northern Quest. Shout out Rick Little. Shout out Sig Jitsu, one of the bigger MMA gyms out here. You got Juliana Pena, obviously, who won the world champion. championship out of there. Brady Houston coming up. You got Ashton Charlton, Jaden Ortega. These are big name guys who I believe will be in the UFC. Brady is in the UFC. Juliana Miller also has a fight May 3rd, I believe. She trains out at Sick Jitsu as well. She comes down here to Mode to use the BPI because they have a hyperbaric chamber and all that kind of stuff. We're doing big things here at Mode. We got this crazy campus. Hopefully, I feel like we can collaborate on some things. And, you know, I know Lana she's our marketing gal and head of operations, and she's trying to get fights to be produced here, and which would be amazing. But yeah, I want to get more fighters in here. We have Zach Schneider running the jiu-jitsu program here, and always trying to get more guys in here. And so hopefully,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, having people like you behind the scenes, you know, helping guys like me with, you know, social media, putting things like this together, it's huge, man. It helps these young guys so much. Having people, you know, help them with that kind of stuff, like this facility is amazing. I've never seen anything like it, man. It's really, really cool what they got going here, and we're hoping to maybe do a show here on the campus later this summer over at the Speedway. So, you know, it's a community effort, man. We all just work together and you know, doing what we love, and it's a beautiful thing, man. And again, we wouldn't be able to do it without all the support we have. Like my business partner Brandon Miller, who owns American Top Team. Like I wouldn't be able to do a lot of these things without him kind of pushing me. He's that friend who's like pushes you into your, you know, out of your comfort zone, and that's what good friends do, is challenge you to become like a better man and push you to you know, push you to your limits. And so I couldn't do it without all the people supporting me. You get in there and you fight by yourself, but you gotta have a strong team behind you. You gotta have the support from your family and your friends, and I've been blessed to have those people around me, you know. So
for me, there is literally nothing like a big fight. You know, when there's a fight that matters, that means something, and now it's like I'm talking to these fighters, I'm friends with these fighters, so I'm even more invested than I've ever been. You know, I want these guys to do well and to go out there and perform so much now, more than ever. But yeah, just like I get contracted by the Clearwater River Casino to do the promo videos, and so I'll go and I'll interview the fighters and try to create this buzz and try to create this hype behind a fight, like give people a reason to watch a fight. And you know, I feel like there's a little, like, the fight community is a little like, we're not going to see the best fights on the regional scene. It's just, it is what it is. Like, it doesn't make sense for them to fight at this level. I'm a fan of the sport, so I'm always just like, I just want to see the biggest and the best fight.
But that's how it starts, you know. You got to start in these small shows, and you work your way up to the big shows, and you know, get to the UFC or whatever it is. So that's how it is. You got to start in these small regional shows, and it, like you said though, like getting to work with the fighters and the people, like it changes your perspective. Like you don't know a guy, you can like, I'm watching the fights, but like if you have some kind of connection, like even Lana, like she met Brandon one time, and she's like, I don't even know what came over me. I'm like screaming at this like it's my own kid out there in a rugby game. It's like once you get just a little bit of a connection with somebody, the emotions that go into seeing them fight is like, it's crazy.
Nothing like,
you know, like people barely know you are like crying and shit, and like, you know, even like I said, coming off the Ultimate Fighter, people feel like they know you and they get to see your story, and they're like, man, it just changes the emotion going into it. And something about fighting is so real, and if you can find a little connection with a fighter, again, it's really hard to believe some of the people who are fans of the sport now, like people who were against it, moms who are like non-violent, and then all of a sudden they're the ones losing their shit and screaming at the TV. It's cool, man. It's such a trip to see how it changes people's lives on all ends.
And for me, I love all combat sports, but man, there's something about mixed martial arts. There's something about even like bare knuckle. I'm not the biggest fan of the bare knuckle, like just messing up the hands. I feel like why, you know, doesn't. I guess you get more cuts and blood and stuff like that. But for me, MMA, I like the rule set that the UFC has implemented. They just brought back the 12-6 elbows or the so they got rid of a couple rules and the down fighter and stuff like that. But I think the UFC is doing it right.
What's that? You know, ever since we were kids, it's like, oh, you know, I know karate or I know boxing or I know wrestling. Who's gonna win? The UFC was able to be like, well, let's see. Bring all the different martial arts in, see who the best guys are. And now everybody's well-rounded. There's guys fighting in the UFC who started training MMA when they were 3, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
and so everybody's so well rounded. It's crazy. There's nothing
and
like
just
it.
the shock factor too. Like there's so many outcomes. You know, there's so many ways to finish a fighter. There's
Yeah.
so many ways to finish a fight, and it's so much more like dimensional than I feel like a boxing would be or something like that.
More unpredictable too. Like
So-
anybody could win on any given night with the right thing happening. You know what I'm saying?
You look at that one fight with who was it, Yair Rodriguez against the Korean Zombie, where I think he was losing the fight, and then literally fifth round,
elbows.
1 second left, he does some crazy knockout. It's like holy crap. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep chugging away. I've been filming MMA for like 4 years now. I have a back catalog of over 30 mixed martial arts events that I've covered now, so I'm able to like go back and pull clips from some of these guys. I have some guys' entire career, entire catalog. Like they've only had like six fights, but I have every single one of their fights, and it's like I'm waiting for them to make that step and to get a big fight, and then it's like, hey, I can go back and take all this footage that I got and create a story, because that's really what it's about. Like trying to build the story and yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like when you on the regional scene, you know, you never know who's gonna be somebody down the road.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, you meet a guy and, you know, he might not be that good right now, but, you know, who's to say in 2 or 3 years he might be in the PFL, UFC, wherever, you know, and then you have all that stuff already logged, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I love interviewing first fight. Like, oh, this is your first fight. Like, how are you feeling? How are the nerves going into your very first amateur fight? Like, it's crazy. But yeah.
Yep. But big shout out, Brandon got the W last night. That's why we came out here.
Yes, sir.
He trained really hard, man. It was a tough fought battle, and he toughed it out, and it was close at the end, but he did just enough to get her done.
Yeah.
You know, and you know those W's are hard to come by sometimes. You know, it's a tough sport, man. It's very tough sport. So
What is next for you? Who's on the docket? Who's fighting next?
what do we got? Yeah, like I said, we got Jamal Mavludov, like we talked about, one of our young prospects. He's fighting in the LFA on Friday, coming Friday. So the LFA is a big platform. A lot of guys.
You're going to corner him for that fight?
No, I'm not going to corner him. No, I'm not going to be out there. I'm going to be back home running the gym.
Gotcha.
Master Fabiano Scherner will be out there with him. And then Brent Primus is fighting in the PFL. So it's going to be a wild weekend for us. We got 2 of our guys fighting in 2 of the biggest shows in the world. And it just keeps going from there. I mean, May is a huge month for us. We got, I think, 6 shows in May.
Every weekend.
Yeah,
Every weekend.
Every weekend. We got a couple weekends where we got 2 shows going on. So we got like split staff, Lincoln City, Oregon, Clearwater Casino up in Bainbridge, Washington, and there's just shows all over like this time of year. And the MMA scene's getting huge again. It used to be really big in the Northwest, and it kind of died off a little bit. It's really making a comeback. It's you know, people think the Northwest is soft, and there's a lot of soft people. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of bad motherfuckers too that come out of these
A
areas.
lot of tough cats, man.
And the fan, I feel like the fans are also getting more educated too. Like you don't see as much like booing when a takedown happens or something. Like the fans know what's going on now. It's like when somebody's setting up for a submission or something like that, they can appreciate it now. We're finally to that point.
Yeah, and all these shows are sold out, man. People fill the stadiums. People love watching fights, and we have a good fan base out here. Again, a lot of fighters, their family, their friends. You know what I mean? There's that connection for a lot of people, you know, to fill those seats. But yeah, man, sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you. Amazing fight last night. I got some crazy footage for you, so I can send that over to you. But yeah, thank you for coming over. Hopefully we can keep building, and I can't wait to see what happens with this place. You know, five years down the road, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, your guys' owner here is doing something I've never seen before, and I think Spokane's a special place, man. There's always been a lot of athletes that came out of this area, so it's a hot spot for MMA, like on the come up, and we'll be excited to be back out here in September, maybe July, right? If we can get that show going at the Speedway, that'd be pretty sweet.
That'd be sick.
But if not, we'll be back out here in September for King of the Cage in Coeur d'Alene again, and you know we'll put something together and come back by.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you guys, and yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bambi.
Boom.
And thank you, Miss Lana.